Amateur video purports to show tanks firing against the Iraqi army today. Take a look. As the explosions and gunfire and battles intensify in Iraq, those caught in the middle are resorting to Whisper. And not whisper as in lowering their voices, Whisper as in the app that's actually giving voice to frightened Iraqis who can't seem to get onto Facebook or on Twitter. Whisper allows users to share their thoughts and remain anonymous. So joining me now to talk about this, CNN Money Tech correspondent Lori Siegel. And Lori, company officials, they say the last 3 days, Whisper has seen the number of users double. What are these posters saying?
It's pretty interesting also that the name is Whisper, and it's really giving folks a bit of a voice.
Loud voice.
And they're called whispers, right? These postings, if you look at the app, you're scrolling through everyone's anonymous postings from all around the world, and they're seeing an influx come in from Iraq right now. Let me get to what they say. One, the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad is evacuating. That one's very interesting. That was reported before the media actually reported it. They put that out there around 8 a.m. Eastern time, and the media reported a couple hours later. Another one, we're fine in Baghdad, but we are ready for the worst. So, Brooke, you just get the sense of fear. Another one, we're waiting our miserable destiny while ISIS is progressing towards Baghdad. And then another one, which is kind of how folks are trying to deal with this. A user posted, "I'm trying to escape by my writing, poems, and story." And Brooke, I'll say you're also seeing cultural confessions too. One user posted about being able to realize his sexual identity before something catastrophic happened. He posted a whisper saying, "I'm gay and single in Iraq, and that makes me feel empty. I want to find a boyfriend before a bomb goes off." It's really heartbreaking stuff, but you know, really a taste of the culture and what's happening on the ground there, Brooke.
With everything that's being shared, you talked to the CEO of Whisper last month. Did he have any idea, any inkling that people would be using it as they are?
It's always so interesting to see social networks come out and then be used for all sorts of things. And he hinted at it. He said this isn't just for high school people to tease each other. We don't want that. We want this to be a safe place that anyone, regardless of their ethnicity, their background, can post and feel like they're safe and they have a voice and they can talk about the government. They can be a whistleblower, but they can post anonymously and be heard, Brooke.
Lori Siegel, thank you. I want to stay on social media here and expand the conversation because my next guest says ISIS embraces social media much to their advantage to really a level we haven't seen before. Michael Weiss is a contributor to Political Magazine and to Foreign Policy. Michael, nice to have you on.
Thanks for having me back.
So, talking about social media, you wrote this piece in the Political Magazine basically saying that these ISIS fighters are you know, in particular, don't seem to have any restrictions on what they can and can't do on social media. How do you mean?
Yeah, well, there is actually one restriction, typically speaking, which is don't post anything about upcoming military operations, which would give the game away, of course. But anything else, from beheading people to crucifying people in Syria to, you know, you have to understand, ISIS is not just a terrorist group, and I would say it's not just even a conventional or guerrilla-style military apparatus now. It's functioning as a state. It has government facilities. It provides medical treatment and food supplies, and it's controlling the Euphrates Dam in Syria and much of the oil supply in Syria now in northern and central Iraq. So in that respect, it's important to think of ISIS as something that's sort of trying to be a quasi-state entity. And indeed, I mean, they use social media very well to their advantage, and I think it's important to understand what they're putting out is propaganda, and no one should take it at face value. It should always be kind of cross-checked in terms of what they claim to be doing versus what they actually are. But there's an app that they're using themselves. I mean, we were talking about Whisper. Just before I sat down, I read a very good piece in The Atlantic. It's called The Dawn of Glad Tidings, and this is an app that you can download. And basically, it's controlled by, I don't know who, probably ISIS Central Command. And anybody who downloads the app will have tweets that Central Command automatically post to their Twitter account as well. So what this is, it's sort of like a force multiplier effect for ISIS's propaganda. It makes them seem like they are everywhere throughout the internet. And so, for instance, the hashtag Baghdad would call up images that they dictated to Twitter. Images suggesting, we're going to bring hell and fury on the city. So it has a very minatory effect, I think, on the current crisis, which is exactly what they want.
Insane. And to,
Yeah.
I think it's important to reiterate what our senior international correspondent Nick Robertson was saying. He was like, listen, Brooke, this isn't just propaganda. This is they are documenting war crimes. So
Yeah.
it's clear that it's at that level. But then we read this article. I don't know if you've seen this, Michael, but The Wire is now reporting that Twitter has suspended multiple ISIS accounts, right, for obviously the violence. But then there's the criticism, because by doing that, that negates the opportunity down the road to prosecute war crimes.
Right. I mean, I think, the incentive for doing that, and Western governments are going to argue this, is we want to stop the recruitment effort. I mean, they're using this as kind of a rallying cry to get, or a casting call, you might say, to get fighters not just from the region in Syria and Iraq, but all over. I mean, the UK, there's something like 400 foreign fighters from Britain who have now gone to join the civil war in Syria, probably most of them with groups affiliated with ISIS, or certainly not the moderate Free Syrian Army types. So absolutely, there's going to be this sort of attempt at censorship. But ISIS is clever, and they find out ways to circumvent this. They're using, or they're saying they should use the Tor system, which is kind of like the shadow internet that is
right, the underbelly.
Exactly. So now I think as we try to adapt to their methods, they're going to adapt to ours. So I don't see them quieting down anytime soon.
This is a whole new way of covering stories like this in real time, and watching how this gets ahead. Sophistication sounds like the understatement when it comes to this group. Michael Weiss, come back to the show. Thank you so much for your knowledge. Really appreciate it. And just quickly, a programming note: Anderson Cooper. Anderson is in Baghdad. He will be anchoring AC 360 live tonight, starting at 8 o'clock Eastern. Do not miss that. Coming up next, back in 2006, Joe Biden made a suggestion on how to fix Iraq. At the time, this idea of his didn't get much traction, but now it has many asking, was he right? We'll talk about the idea, pitch it to the Crossfire colleagues, let them debate that next.